Welcome. Let yourself settle in. Take a deep breath, and as you exhale, allow your body to sink a little deeper into comfort. Tonight, we're going to explore some gentle truths about life. Simple facts that connect us all to the world around us. There's no need to focus too intently. Just let the words wash over you like waves on a shore. Chapter 1. Life begins. Let's start with something fundamental, something so essential that it underlies every living thing you've ever encountered. All life is built from cells. Whether you're thinking of the smallest bacteria invisible to the naked eye, or the largest whale swimming through dark ocean depths, or the ancient redwood trees standing silent in misty forests. All of it, every bit of life, is constructed from these tiny building blocks we call cells. Some organisms are just a single cell going about their business in a drop of pond water. Others, like us, are made of trillions upon trillions of cells, all working together in quiet harmony. It's remarkable, really, that something so small could be the foundation of everything that lives and breathes. And these cells, these microscopic units of life, they have a profound ability. Cells organize themselves to survive. Think about that for a moment. Without anyone directing them, without any blueprint handed down from above, cells arrange themselves into patterns and structures. They form tissues, they create organs, they build systems that can pump blood, process thoughts, heal wounds. A liver cell knows how to be a liver cell. A nerve cell knows how to carry signals. This self-organization happens quietly, constantly, beneath our awareness. Millions of tiny decisions being made every second, all oriented toward one purpose: survival. It's like a vast city organizing itself, traffic flowing, goods moving, all without a central planner. Just countless small interactions creating something greater. But organization alone isn't enough. For cells to maintain their structures, to keep their delicate machinery running, they need something vital. Cells metabolize energy. Metabolism. It's a beautiful word for a beautiful process. It means transformation. Cells take in nutrients, molecules from the world around them, and they transform these molecules, breaking them down, building them up, extracting the energy hidden in chemical bonds. This is happening in you right now as you rest here. Your cells are quietly burning fuel, releasing energy, using that energy to power everything you are. Every thought, every heartbeat, every breath. It all runs on this metabolized energy, and it never stops. Even in sleep, even in the deepest rest, your cells continue their metabolic dance, keeping you alive, keeping you going. And cells don't just exist in isolation, floating in their own private worlds. They're aware, in their own way. Cells respond to stimuli. They sense their environment. A cell can detect temperature changes, chemical signals, mechanical pressure. When something in their environment shifts, cells notice and they react. They might move toward nutrients or away from toxins. They might change their internal chemistry. They might send signals to neighboring cells. This responsiveness is fundamental to life. It's what allows organisms to adapt moment by moment, to navigate an ever-changing world. Even the simplest single-celled organism has this ability to sense and respond, to participate in the conversation between life and environment. But life doesn't last forever, at least not for individual cells or individual organisms. And yet life continues. How? Because cells reproduce. They divide, creating copies of themselves, passing on their information, their instructions, their essence to the next generation. Sometimes this reproduction is simple. A cell splits into two, and now there are two where there was one. Sometimes it's more complex, involving the mixing of information from two parents, creating something new, something unique. But always, there's this drive to continue, to persist through time, to ensure that life goes on even when individual lives must end. It's a kind of immortality, not of the individual, but of the pattern, the information, the spark of life itself. All of these processes, these miraculous cellular activities, they require something continuous, something that never stops flowing. Life depends on constant energy flow. Imagine a river. The water is always moving, always flowing from high ground to low ground, from source to sea. Life is like that river. Energy flows into living systems, moves through them, and flows out again. Nothing living can exist as a closed system. We must constantly take in energy, use it, and release it. The moment that flow stops, the moment the energy ceases to move through us, that's when life ends. So, in a very real sense, living things are not objects but processes, not nouns but verbs, patterns of energy flow that maintain themselves in a stream of constant change. And where does this energy come from? This river that powers all of life? Most energy traces back to sunlight. Think about that profound connection. The warm light you feel on your skin on a sunny day. That same light is the ultimate source of nearly all life on Earth. Plants capture sunlight and transform it into chemical energy through photosynthesis. Animals eat plants, or they eat animals that eat plants. Even the fossil fuels we burn, coal, oil, natural gas, these are ancient sunlight, captured by plants and organisms millions of years ago, stored in the earth, waiting. The food you ate today, the energy that's sustaining you right now as you rest, all of it, if you trace it back far enough, comes from a star. We are all, in a sense, children of the sun, powered by stellar fire transformed through the alchemy of life. This energy requirement is absolute. Without energy, life cannot continue. It's not a matter of convenience or optimization. It's fundamental. A living thing cut off from energy sources will cease all its processes. The metabolism will stop. The organization will break down. The ability to respond, to reproduce, to maintain itself, all of it depends on that continuous flow of energy. This is why all living things must eat, in one form or another. Whether it's a plant drinking in sunlight, a grazer munching grass, a predator catching prey, or a bacterium absorbing nutrients from its surroundings, every organism is constantly seeking energy, constantly refueling. It's the price of existence, the cost of being alive. And here's something else to consider as you drift towards sleep. Life is never static. Nothing alive is frozen, unchanging, permanent in its current form. Even when you're sitting still, even when you're sleeping, your body is in constant flux. Cells are dying and being replaced. Proteins are being built and broken down. Molecules are moving, combining, separating. Your body today is not exactly the same body you had yesterday, and it won't be exactly the same tomorrow. Life exists in motion, in process, in flow. Stillness, true stillness, is the domain of the non-living. To be alive is to be in constant, subtle motion, even in rest. And so we come to our final thought for this chapter. Change defines living systems. Life is not about maintaining a fixed state. It's about adaptation, growth, response, evolution. From moment to moment, organisms change to meet the demands of their environment. Over generations, populations change through evolution, shaped by the pressures of survival. Change isn't something that happens to life. Change is what life is. It's the fundamental characteristic that separates the living from the non-living. A rock can sit unchanged for millennia, but a living thing is always in process, always becoming, always transforming. And perhaps there's something comforting in that as you prepare for sleep. You don't have to be the same tomorrow as you were today. Change is natural. Change is life itself. Let yourself rest in that knowledge. Let yourself be part of that great flowing river of existence, knowing that change is not something to fear, but something to embrace as the very essence of being alive. Rest now, breathe slowly. The next chapter awaits, but there's no hurry. Take your time. Life continues, patient and persistent, flowing like water, warm like sunlight.
Sleep well.
Chapter 2. How Humans Evolved. Let's take a journey now, back through time, but gently, peacefully, like watching clouds drift across an ancient sky. We're going to explore where we came from, what shaped us, what made us human. And we'll start with something that might surprise you, something profound about connection. Humans share most of their DNA. If you could look at the genetic code of any two people on Earth, no matter how different they might appear, no matter how far apart their ancestors lived, you would find that their DNA is almost identical, more than 99% the same. Think about that for a moment. The person next to you, the stranger across the world, someone from a completely different culture speaking a completely different language. Genetically, you're nearly identical. We are, all of us, variations on the same theme. We're like different performances of the same piece of music, each one unique in its interpretation, but all sharing the same fundamental notes, the same underlying melody. This vast genetic similarity speaks to our common origin, our shared journey through time. We are one human family, connected at the deepest biological level. And yet, we're not all the same, are we? Look around at the beautiful diversity of human beings. Different heights, different features, different talents, different ways of being in the world. How can this be if we share so much of our genetic code? The answer is elegant in its simplicity. Small genetic differences create diversity. That remaining fraction of a percent, those tiny variations in our DNA, they create enormous ripples in how we develop, how we look, how our bodies and minds work. A change in just a handful of genetic letters can alter eye color, influence height, affect how we process certain nutrients, shape our susceptibility to various conditions. It's like a vast library where most of the books are identical, but a few changed words here and there create entirely different stories. These small differences, scattered across millions of genetic letters, combine in countless ways to create the beautiful tapestry of human diversity we see around us. But here's something important to understand as you rest here in the quiet. Traits come from genes and environment. You are not just your DNA. You're also everything that's happened to you, everything you've experienced, every place you've been, every person you've met. Your genes provide the possibilities, the potential, the range of what you might become. But the environment, that shapes which possibilities are realized. A seed carries the potential for a tree, but whether that tree grows tall or stays small, whether it bends toward the light or grows straight, whether it thrives or struggles. All of that depends on the soil, the water, the sun, the wind. You're like that tree. Your genes and your environment dance together, constantly interacting, shaping you throughout your life. Nature and nurture, not opposing forces, but partners in the ongoing creation of who you are. Now let's drift back further in time, to the deep past, to the world that shaped our ancestors. Human ancestors evolved in unstable climates. Imagine East Africa, millions of years ago. The climate was not stable, not predictable. It would shift from wet to dry, from forest to grassland, back and forth over thousands of years. This instability was challenging, certainly, but it was also formative. Our ancestors couldn't specialize too narrowly for one particular environment, because that environment might change within a few generations. They couldn't rely on a single food source, a single strategy, a single way of living. The world kept changing around them, and they had to keep adapting, keep learning, keep finding new solutions. This crucible of change, this was the forge that shaped humanity. In that unstable world, one quality became more valuable than almost any other. Flexibility increased survival. The organisms that could adapt quickly, that could change their behavior, that could learn new tricks and try new approaches. These were the ones that survived when the environment shifted. Physical flexibility, yes. The ability to climb trees but also walk on the ground. To eat meat but also plants. But also behavioral flexibility, mental flexibility. The ability to solve problems, to imagine new possibilities, to cooperate in new ways. Flexibility became humanity's superpower. Not the sharpest claws, not the strongest muscles, not the thickest hide, but the ability to adapt, to be different things in different circumstances, to meet change with change. And so, over millions of years, humans became generalists. Many animals are specialists. The koala eats eucalyptus leaves and does that one thing extraordinarily well. The hummingbird drinks nectar with exquisite precision. But humans, we're different. We can eat an enormous variety of foods. We can live in almost any climate, from Arctic tundra to tropical rainforest to scorching desert. We can use countless different strategies to solve problems. We're not the best at any one thing, but we're reasonably good at many things. This generalist nature is why humans have spread to every corner of the earth, why we've thrived in such diverse environments. We're adaptable, we're versatile, we're flexible enough to meet whatever challenges arise. And there was one physical change early in our evolutionary story that opened up new possibilities. Walking upright freed the hands. Millions of years ago, our ancestors transitioned from moving on all fours to walking on two legs. This bipedalism, it changed everything. When you walk on two legs, your hands are no longer needed for locomotion. They're free to carry things, free to manipulate objects, free to gesture, to communicate, to create. This simple change, standing upright, walking on 2 feet, it was revolutionary. It set our ancestors on a new path, creating possibilities that hadn't existed before. And what did we do with those free hands? Hands enabled tool use. With hands available, our ancestors could pick up stones and shape them, creating sharp edges for cutting. They could break branches and fashion them into digging sticks, into spears. They could manipulate their environment in increasingly sophisticated ways. Tool use isn't unique to humans. Other animals use tools too. But the freed hands of our bipedal ancestors allowed tool use to flourish in new ways, to become more complex, more varied, more central to survival. Tools extended our abilities. A stone tool made us sharper. A spear made us faster. Fire, once we learned to control it, made us warmer and our food more digestible. Each tool was like an enhancement, an upgrade, allowing humans to do things that would have been impossible with just our bodies alone. But tools alone don't make a civilization. There was something else, another development that proved crucial. Large brains supported cooperation. Human brains grew larger over evolutionary time, particularly in regions associated with social thinking, planning, and communication. And these large brains weren't just for individual problem solving. They were for understanding other minds, predicting behavior, coordinating actions, sharing knowledge. They made possible deep cooperation. Humans could work together on complex tasks. They could divide labor, with different individuals contributing different skills. They could teach each other, passing knowledge from generation to generation, building on what came before. They could form alliances, create social structures, care for the vulnerable. This cooperation, enabled by our complex social brains, became one of humanity's greatest strengths. We achieved together what no individual could achieve alone. And here's something to consider as your mind grows quiet, preparing for sleep. Humans are still evolving. Evolution didn't stop with our ancestors. It's still happening right now, in every generation. The process is slow, too slow to see in a single lifetime, but it's ongoing. Our environment continues to shape us. Modern life presents different challenges than our ancestors faced, and populations are slowly adapting. Evolution never stops as long as life continues. We're not finished products, not the final form. We're still changing, still adapting, still part of that ancient process that has been unfolding for billions of years. In a sense, you're a work in progress, part of a story that stretches from the deep past into the distant future. And perhaps there's something peaceful in understanding this, that we're all connected, all part of one human family, shaped by the same forces, carrying the same deep history in our cells. We're the product of millions of years of adaptation, of ancestors who survived against the odds, who were flexible and cooperative and creative enough to persist through endless challenges. Rest now in that knowledge. You carry within you the legacy of countless generations, the wisdom of deep time, encoded in every cell. Let yourself relax, knowing that you're part of something vast and ancient and ongoing. The river of life continues, and you're one small wave in that great flow. Breathe slowly, let your thoughts drift. The next chapter is waiting, but for now, just rest. Chapter 3. A Human Life. Let's turn now to something more personal, more immediate. Let's think about the arc of a single human life, the journey from beginning to end that each of us travels. And we'll start with the most basic truth, one that's both simple and profound. Human life has a beginning and an end. Every person who has ever lived came into existence at a particular moment, and every person eventually departs. This isn't meant to be sad, just honest. There's a certain beauty in it, actually. Life is precious partly because it's temporary. Each moment matters because there are only so many moments. The fact that life is finite gives it shape, gives it meaning. It's like a story with a beginning, middle, and end. Without the ending, there would be no story, just an endless continuation. So, as you rest here, perhaps there's peace in accepting this simple truth. Your life, like all lives, is a chapter in the great book of existence. It has its time, and that time is valuable precisely because it's limited. But here's the remarkable thing. While individual lives end, the pattern continues. Life continues through reproduction. Parents pass something of themselves to their children. Not just genetic information, though that's part of it. They also pass down knowledge, stories, values, ways of being in the world. Each generation learns from the one before and teaches the one that follows. So while individual humans are temporary, humanity persists. Life flows through time like a river, with individual drops of water joining for a while and then moving on, but the river itself continuing its journey. You're one of those drops, connected to all who came before and all who will come after. And how does each human life begin? With remarkable vulnerability. Humans are born helpless. Unlike many other animals that can walk or even run within hours of birth, human infants can do almost nothing for themselves. They cannot walk, cannot feed themselves, cannot escape danger, cannot survive alone, even for a short time. This helplessness is profound. A newborn human is perhaps the most dependent creature on Earth. And this isn't a flaw or weakness in human design. It's actually connected to our greatest strengths, our large brains, the same brains that allow for language and complex thought and cooperation. They require our heads to be large, and there are limits to how large a head can be at birth. So humans are born early in a sense, before they're fully developed, before they can take care of themselves. This extreme vulnerability creates a necessity. Extended care ensures survival. Human children require years of care, not just months. They need to be fed, protected, taught, nurtured through a long childhood. This extended period of dependency is longer than in almost any other species. A human child might need care and support for 15, 18, even 20 years before becoming fully independent. This is an enormous investment of time and energy, but it's also an opportunity. During those long years of childhood, so much learning can happen. Skills can be taught, language can be mastered, social understanding can develop. The long human childhood is not just about physical growth. It's about mental and social growth, about becoming not just a biological being, but a cultural being, a member of a human community. And this extended care does something else, something subtle but important. Dependency creates social bonds. The long years of caring for children, of being cared for as children, they forge deep connections between people. Parents and children, siblings, extended family. The bonds formed during these years of dependency often last a lifetime. They create networks of care and support that extend far beyond childhood. And it's not just family bonds. Humans are so dependent for so long that we've evolved to be intensely social creatures. We need each other. We're built for connection, for relationship, for community. That infant vulnerability, which seems like a weakness, actually becomes a foundation for the rich social world that makes us human. And as you lie here resting, consider this. Life unfolds in stages. Childhood gives way to adolescence, adolescence to adulthood, adulthood eventually to old age. Each stage has its own character, its own challenges, its own gifts. The eager curiosity of childhood, the intense growth and self-discovery of adolescence, the productivity and responsibility of adulthood, the wisdom and perspective of later years. You don't stay the same throughout your life. You change, transform, move through these stages like traveling through different landscapes on a long journey. And each stage is valuable. Each has something to offer. There's no perfect age, no single moment that's better than all the others. Each stage is just one part of the whole, one chapter in your story. Take adolescence, for example. Adolescence includes rapid growth. During the teenage years, the human body undergoes dramatic changes, growth spurts, hormonal shifts, the development of adult physical characteristics. The brain itself is rewiring, particularly in areas related to decision-making and emotional regulation. It's a turbulent time, often confusing and challenging, but it's also necessary, a crucial bridge between childhood and adulthood. The intensity of adolescence serves a purpose. It's preparation, transformation, the chrysalis stage where a child becomes an adult. And though it can be difficult, it's also a time of enormous possibility, when identity is being formed and paths are being chosen. Then comes adulthood and the long middle years of life. And eventually, inevitably, the later stages. Aging alters strength and senses. As years pass, the body changes. Physical strength may decline. Senses like vision and hearing may not be quite as sharp. The metabolism slows. Recovery from injury takes longer. These changes are natural, universal, part of the human experience. But aging isn't just about loss. There are gains too. Perspective, experience, often a deeper sense of what really matters in life. Many people find that later years bring a kind of peace, a settling, a comfort with themselves that wasn't possible in youth. Aging is not an illness or a failure. It's simply another stage with its own character, its own lessons to teach. Here's something important to understand, though. Early habits shape later life. The choices you make when you're young, the habits you form, the patterns you establish, they echo through the years. How you treat your body in your 20s and 30s affects how your body functions in your 60s and 70s, the relationships you nurture, the skills you develop, the ways you learn to cope with stress and challenge. All of these create trajectories that extend far into the future. This isn't meant to create anxiety, just awareness. Small choices, repeated over time, become the architecture of your life. The good news is that it's never too late to form new habits, to change direction, to make different choices. But the earlier you establish healthy patterns, the more they compound, building a foundation for the decades to come. And what are these healthy patterns? Healthy behavior supports independence. Taking care of your body through movement, through nourishing food, through adequate rest. Taking care of your mind through learning, through managing stress, through maintaining connections with others. These aren't luxuries or vanities. They're investments in your future self. The person who exercises regularly in middle age is far more likely to maintain mobility in old age. The person who stays socially connected throughout life is more likely to remain mentally sharp in later years. Healthy behaviors give you the best chance of remaining independent, capable, engaged with life for as long as possible. They're not guarantees, of course. Life is uncertain. But they shift the odds in your favor, giving you the best possible foundation for whatever comes. And so the arc of a human life, from helpless infant to independent adult to elder, it's a journey shared by all of us. Each stage has its place, its purpose. The dependency of childhood creates bonds and enables learning. The growth of adolescence transforms child into adult. The productivity of adulthood sustains individuals and communities. The wisdom of age provides perspective and guidance. It's a cycle, beautiful in its completeness, each part necessary for the whole. As you drift towards sleep, perhaps you can feel yourself as part of this great cycle. You're at whatever stage you're at, and that's exactly where you should be. The journey continues, unfolding in its own time, at its own pace. There's no need to rush, no need to be anywhere other than where you are right now. Rest easy, breathe deeply, let yourself be held by the knowledge that you're part of an ancient pattern, a cycle that has repeated billions of times, each life unique but also connected to every other life that has ever been. Sleep well. The next chapter awaits, but there's no hurry. For now, just be here, in this moment, at peace. Chapter 4. The Body. Let's turn our attention now to something you carry with you always, something so familiar you might rarely stop to consider it. Your body. This remarkable vessel that allows you to experience the world, to move through space, to interact with everything around you. Let's explore it gently, discovering some of its quiet wonders. Here's something that might surprise you. The human body is mostly water. If you could somehow separate all the components of your body, you'd find that roughly 60% of your weight is simply water. You are, in a very real sense, a walking ocean. Your cells float in watery fluid. Your blood is mostly water, carrying dissolved nutrients and gases. Even your bones, which seem so solid, contain water. This abundance of water isn't accidental, it's essential. Water is the medium in which life happens, the stage on which all the body's processes unfold. You are less solid than you appear, more fluid, more flowing. In some ways, you're more like a fountain than a statue, water constantly cycling through, being used, being renewed. And what does all this water do? Water supports circulation and chemistry. Think about your blood, flowing through miles of vessels, reaching every corner of your body. Water makes that possible, providing the liquid medium that can carry oxygen to your tissues and remove waste products. But it's not just circulation. Every chemical reaction in your body, every bit of metabolism, every cellular process, it all happens in water. Water is the universal solvent, the substance that allows molecules to dissolve, to move, to interact, to react with each other. Without water, the chemistry of life would simply stop. Your body temperature is regulated by water through sweating and evaporation. Your joints are cushioned by water. Your organs are protected by water. It's everywhere, doing everything, essential and often invisible in its work. Now here's something truly fascinating, something that changes how we think about what a human being even is. Humans host trillions of microbes. Your body isn't just made of human cells. It's also home to an enormous population of bacteria, fungi, viruses, and other microscopic organisms. They live on your skin, in your mouth, throughout your digestive system. In fact, there are roughly as many microbial cells in and on your body as there are human cells. You're not just an individual, you're an ecosystem, a walking world, home to countless tiny lives. And these aren't invaders or parasites, at least not most of them. They're partners, collaborators, essential parts of what makes you function. What do all these microscopic companions do? Microbes aid digestion and immunity. In your gut, trillions of bacteria help break down food, particularly complex plant materials that your own cells can't digest. They produce vitamins that your body needs. They train your immune system, teaching it to recognize threats and respond appropriately. They even produce compounds that affect your mood and mental state. The microbes in your body are so important that without them, you couldn't survive. You'd be unable to extract full nutrition from food. Your immune system wouldn't develop properly. In a sense, you're not just one organism. You're a community, a symbiotic partnership between human cells and microbial cells, all working together to create the functioning whole that is you. Let's move now to perhaps the most remarkable organ in your body, the one responsible for your thoughts, your memories, your sense of self. The brain consumes large energy. Despite being only about 2% of your body weight, your brain uses roughly 20% of your body's total energy at rest. That's an enormous proportion. The brain is expensive to run, metabolically speaking. All those billions of neurons, constantly signaling, constantly processing, maintaining their electrical charge, sending messages throughout your body, creating your conscious experience. All of that requires tremendous amounts of energy. Even now, as you rest quietly, your brain is working, using fuel, keeping everything running. And why is the brain so expensive? Thinking is biologically costly. Every thought, every memory recalled, every decision made, it all requires energy. Neurons must fire. Chemical signals must be produced and released. Connections must be maintained and sometimes formed anew. The more complex the thinking, the more energy it requires. This is why mental work can be genuinely exhausting, why a day spent thinking hard can leave you as tired as a day spent in physical labor. Your brain is working, burning through its fuel supply, and that work has a real metabolic cost. But it's worth it. That costly brain is what makes you human, what allows for all the complexity of human thought and feeling and creativity. Now let's consider how your brain receives information about the world. Vision dominates perception. If you think about your experience of reality, so much of it is visual. You navigate by sight. You recognize faces by sight. You read, you watch, you observe. The human brain devotes enormous resources to processing visual information. More of your brain is dedicated to vision than to any other single sense. This makes sense from an evolutionary perspective. Our ancestors were diurnal creatures, active during the day, and vision provided crucial information about the world, where food could be found, where dangers might lurk, the subtle social signals in another person's face. Vision became our primary window onto reality, but vision isn't the only sense, of course. Other senses work together constantly. Right now, even as you rest, your ears are processing sounds. Your skin is feeling pressure, temperature, texture. Your nose is detecting scents. even if you're not consciously aware of them. Your body senses its position in space, the pull of gravity, the tension in your muscles. All of these senses feed information to your brain simultaneously, creating a rich, multi-dimensional experience of the world. And they work together, confirming and complementing each other. You see a door and hear it open. You see food and smell its aroma. Each sense provides a different perspective, and together they create a coherent picture of reality. One sense that often goes unnoticed, precisely because it works so well, is your sense of balance. Balance maintains orientation. Inside your inner ear, tiny structures detect the position and movement of your head. They tell your brain which way is up, whether you're tilting, whether you're moving or still. This information is combined with input from your eyes and from sensors in your muscles and joints, all working together to keep you oriented in space. When you stand, when you walk, when you reach for something, your sense of balance is working constantly, automatically, keeping you stable and upright. You only notice it when something goes wrong, when you feel dizzy or off balance. But every moment, this sense is quietly doing its job, keeping you grounded in physical reality. And all of these systems, all of these senses and organs and processes, they enable something fundamental. Movement supports survival, your ability to move through the world, to go where you need to go, to manipulate objects, to respond to threats and opportunities. This is essential to being alive. Movement brought your ancestors to food sources. Movement carried them away from dangers. Movement allowed them to build, to create, to shape their environment. Even now, even in our modern world, movement remains crucial. Your heart moves blood through your body. Your lungs move air in and out. Your muscles move your skeleton, allowing you to interact with the world. Movement is life expressing itself, energy in action, the body doing what bodies do. As you lie here now, your body continues its quiet work. Water flowing, microbes partnering, brain processing, senses monitoring, balance maintaining, everything working together in intricate coordination, mostly beneath your conscious awareness. Your body knows what to do. It's been doing it since you were born, and it will continue until your journey ends. There's something deeply peaceful in that, in trusting your body to handle all the countless tasks required to keep you alive and functioning. You don't have to think about your heartbeat. You don't have to consciously direct your digestion. You don't have to manually process each photon of light that enters your eyes. Your body handles all of this, automatically, constantly, competently. You can rest. You can let go. Your body will continue its work while you sleep, faithfully performing its ancient functions, caring for you in ways seen and unseen. Breathe slowly. Feel the weight of your body, mostly water, resting heavily, peacefully. Feel your senses gradually quieting as sleep approaches. Trust in the wisdom of your body, this remarkable system that has carried you through every moment of your life. Rest now, let yourself drift. The next chapter will be here when you're ready, but for now, simply be here, embodied, alive, at peace. Chapter 5. The mind. We've explored the body, that physical vessel that carries you through the world. Now let's turn inward, to something less tangible but equally real. Your mind. That inner landscape of thoughts and feelings, memories and dreams. Let's discover some of its gentle mysteries. Here's something hopeful to begin with, something that speaks to endless possibility. Humans can learn throughout life. Your brain is not fixed, not frozen in place after childhood. It remains plastic, capable of change, able to form new connections and pathways even into old age. You can learn a new language at 60. You can develop a new skill at 70. You can understand new concepts at 80. The capacity for learning never fully disappears. Every experience has the potential to reshape your brain slightly, to create new neural pathways, to adjust old ones. This is called neuroplasticity, and it means that you're never truly finished, never completely formed. You remain capable of growth, of change, of learning, as long as you live. There's something beautiful in that, a kind of permanent openness to the new. But learning does shift over time. Learning style changes with age. Children often learn through play, through exploration, through trial and error. Their brains are forming foundational networks, absorbing enormous amounts of information about language, movement, social interaction. Young adults might learn more abstractly, through formal instruction, through books and lectures. Older adults often learn best by connecting new information to their deep wells of existing knowledge and experience. The mechanisms of learning evolve throughout life. What works at one age might not work as well at another. But this isn't a decline, just a change. Each stage has its own strengths. The speed and flexibility of youth, the depth and wisdom of age. Understanding how you learn best at your current stage of life can make learning easier, more effective, more enjoyable. Now let's consider something fundamental about how your mind holds on to the past. Memory is not a recording. It might feel like your memories are like videos, perfect recordings of past events stored somewhere in your brain, ready to be played back. But that's not how it works. Memories are more like reconstructions, assembled on the fly from scattered fragments of information. When you remember something, your brain is actively creating that memory in the moment, piecing it together from various neural networks. This is why memories can be surprisingly unreliable, why two people can remember the same event quite differently. You're not retrieving a fixed recording. You're rebuilding an experience from pieces, and that rebuilding is influenced by everything you've learned and experienced since the original event. And here's something even more remarkable. Recall reshapes memories. Every time you remember something, you're not just accessing that memory, you're also changing it slightly. The act of remembering makes the memory malleable, open to modification. Details can shift, emphasis can change, new information can be incorporated. This means your memories are not static archives of the past. They're living, evolving, constantly being updated and rewritten. That childhood memory you've recalled dozens of times, it's probably quite different now from the original experience, shaped by all those acts of remembering, by your current perspective, by stories you've heard others tell. Your past is not fixed. It's being continuously recreated in the present. Let's turn now to something you feel constantly, something that colours every moment of your existence. Emotions arise from neural systems. Fear, joy, sadness, anger, love, contentment. All of these subjective feelings emerge from physical processes in your brain. Specific circuits and chemicals create the experience of emotion. When you feel afraid, certain areas deep in your brain are active, releasing chemicals that prepare your body for danger. When you feel happy, different circuits engage, different chemicals flow. Emotions feel so personal, so much like the essence of who you are. And they are. But they're also biological, physical, the product of your brain doing what brains evolved to do. There's no contradiction here. Your emotions are both subjectively real and objectively physical, both things at once. And emotions aren't just feelings, aren't just subjective experiences to be noted and then set aside. Emotions influence learning and behaviour. When something makes you feel good, you're more likely to remember it and repeat it. When something frightens you, you learn to avoid it. Emotions act as a kind of learning signal, highlighting what's important, what matters, what requires attention. They motivate behaviour, pushing you towards some things and away from others. A purely rational being, if such a thing could exist, would have trouble making decisions, would struggle to know what to care about. Emotions provide direction, priority, meaning. They're not opposed to thinking. They're part of thinking, deeply integrated into how your mind works. Consider how you make choices, how you navigate the countless decisions of daily life. Decision-making uses many circuits. When you decide something, even something simple like what to eat for lunch, multiple brain systems are involved. Some parts evaluate options, some recall past experiences, some predict future outcomes, some weigh emotional significance, some consider social factors. All of these systems work together, often in fractions of a second, to arrive at a decision. Most of this happens beneath conscious awareness. You experience the decision as a single moment of choice. But underneath, it's a symphony of neural processes, a complex collaboration between different parts of your brain. And in this complex process, two things that we often think of as separate are actually deeply intertwined. Reason and emotion interact. There's an old idea that reason and emotion are opposed, that good decisions come from pure logic, while emotions cloud judgment. But neuroscience tells us this isn't accurate. Reason and emotion work together. Emotional responses provide rapid evaluations of situations. Rational analysis refines and contextualizes those evaluations. People with damage to emotional centers of the brain don't become purely logical. Instead, they struggle to make decisions at all, paralyzed by an inability to care about outcomes. Emotions and reason need each other. They're partners, not enemies, in the process of navigating life. In fact, here's a truth that might change how you think about your choices. No choice is purely rational. Even when you feel like you're being completely logical, emotions are involved. Your goals themselves, the things you're trying to achieve, are shaped by what you care about, and caring is inherently emotional. The values you use to evaluate options, they come from emotional responses to experiences throughout your life. The sense of certainty you feel when you settle on a decision, that's an emotional signal, not a logical one. This doesn't mean your decisions are irrational. It means rationality is always embodied, always intertwined with feeling. You make decisions not as a pure intellect, but as a whole person, thinking and feeling, reasoning and caring, all at once. And all of this, all of your learning and memory, your emotions and decisions, it's shaped by everything that's happened to you. Experience shapes judgment. The choices you make today are influenced by every choice you've made before, every outcome you've witnessed, every lesson you've learned. Your past flows into your present, informing how you see situations, how you evaluate options, what seems risky and what seems safe. Two people in identical situations might make different choices because they bring different histories, different accumulated experiences. This isn't good or bad. It's just how minds work. Your judgments are built from your life, constructed gradually over time, unique to your particular path through the world. As you rest here, perhaps you can sense your mind, that quiet hum of neural activity that never quite stops, even in sleep. Memories floating, emotions ebbing and flowing, thoughts arising and dissolving. Your mind is not separate from your body. It emerges from your brain, from all those billions of neurons doing their intricate dance. And yet it feels like something more, like the essence of you, the place where you live. Your mind has carried you through every experience of your life. It's learned and grown, adapted and changed. It's held your joys and your sorrows, your triumphs and your struggles. It's created your sense of self, your understanding of the world, your hopes for the future. And now it's guiding you gently towards sleep, toward rest, toward the quiet restoration that comes when conscious thought recedes. Trust your mind to keep working while you sleep, processing the day, consolidating memories, making sense of things in ways you'll never fully understand. You don't have to direct it or control it. Just let it do what it does, naturally, effortlessly. Breathe deeply. Feel your thoughts beginning to drift, to lose their sharp edges, to blur into the soft formlessness that precedes sleep. Let yourself sink into that gentle space where the mind releases its grip on waking and allows sleep to come. Rest now. The next chapter will be waiting, but there's no hurry. For now, just let your mind be quiet, peaceful, still. Chapter 6. Relationships. We've explored the individual, the body and mind that make you who you are. But no person is truly separate, truly alone. We exist in relationship, connected to others in countless ways. Let's explore these connections gently, discovering how deeply we're woven into each other's lives. Here's something fundamental about human nature, something built into us at the deepest level. Humans are wired for attachment. Your brain is designed to form bonds with other people, especially in early life. Infants instinctively seek closeness to caregivers. They cry when separated, calm when held. This isn't learned behavior. It's built in, hardwired into our neural architecture. The drive to connect, to attach, to bond with others. It's as fundamental as the drive for food or safety. We are social creatures, not by choice, but by design. Our brains literally develop differently depending on the quality of our early attachments. Connection isn't optional for humans. It's essential, written into our biology, part of what makes us who we are. And these early connections have lasting effects. Early bonds shape resilience. The attachments formed in infancy and childhood, the sense of being cared for, being valued, being safe, these create templates for all future relationships. They shape how you respond to stress, how you regulate emotions, how you trust others. Children who experience secure, stable attachments tend to be more resilient as adults, better able to cope with challenges, more confident in seeking help when needed. This doesn't mean that difficult early experiences doom you. The brain remains plastic, capable of healing. But it does mean that those first relationships matter, that they echo through time, influencing who you become. The care you received shaped you. The care you give shapes others. Let's think back to our ancestors, to the deep evolutionary past. Cooperation enabled survival. Humans are not particularly strong compared to other animals. We're not especially fast. We don't have sharp claws or thick hides. But we have something else. Something powerful. We can work together. Early humans hunted in groups, coordinating their actions, dividing tasks, sharing the results. They cared for injured or sick members. They pooled knowledge and resources. This cooperation allowed them to survive and thrive in challenging environments. A lone human in the wild is vulnerable, but a group of cooperating humans is formidable. We succeeded as a species not through individual prowess, but through collective action, through our ability to coordinate, to help each other, to function as something greater than the sum of our parts. And what makes this cooperation possible? Part of the answer lies in a remarkable mental ability. Empathy supports group living. Empathy is the capacity to sense what others are feeling, to imagine their perspective, to share in their emotional experience. When you see someone in pain and feel a flicker of that pain yourself, that's empathy. When you can anticipate what a friend needs without them asking, that's empathy. This ability to read others, to resonate with their inner states, it's crucial for social life. It allows you to predict behavior, to coordinate actions, to help when help is needed. Empathy creates the emotional glue that holds groups together. It transforms a collection of individuals into a community, bound by mutual understanding and care. And this social nature runs deep. Humans are inherently social. Isolation is not your natural state. Throughout human history, exile from the group was one of the harshest punishments because it threatened survival itself. Even today, in our modern world, loneliness is painful. It registers in the brain similarly to physical pain. It's a signal, an alarm telling you that something important is missing. Your need for social connection is not a weakness or a preference. It's fundamental. You're built to live among others, to communicate, to share experiences, to be part of something larger than yourself. Even introverts, who might need more solitude than others, still need some connection. The question is not whether humans are social, but how much social contact each individual needs to thrive. In fact, the statement is even stronger than that. No human survives alone. Think about your life. Everything you use, everything you depend on, it comes from others. The food you eat, someone grew it, or raised it, or processed it. The clothes you wear, someone made them. The knowledge you have, someone taught you or wrote it down. The technology you use, countless people contributed to its development. Even if you live by yourself, you're surrounded by the products of human cooperation, embedded in networks of mutual dependence that span the globe. And this has always been true. Even the most self-sufficient person relies on knowledge passed down through generations, on skills learned from others, on the basic social structure that makes individual life possible. And when challenges arise, as they inevitably do, what sustains us? Care networks sustain life. When you're sick, someone helps. When you're struggling, someone listens. When you need support, someone provides it. These networks of care, formal and informal, family and friends, neighbors and communities, they're what allow humans to weather difficulties. A parent caring for a child, a friend checking on someone who's been quiet lately, a community organizing to help someone in crisis. These acts of care, multiplied across millions of people every day, create a web of mutual support that catches us when we fall. You've been caught by these networks, probably more often than you realize. And you've been part of them too, catching others in turn. But relationships do more than just help us survive. Communities transmit knowledge. Every generation learns from the one before. Children don't have to discover everything from scratch. They're taught language, skills, customs, stories. This cultural transmission is one of humanity's greatest strengths. Knowledge accumulates across generations. Each generation adds a little more, builds on what came before, and passes it all forward. You know things your ancestors never knew. Your descendants will know things you can't imagine. This is possible because humans are social, because we communicate, because we teach and learn from each other. Your mind contains not just your own experiences, but the distilled wisdom of countless previous lives, passed down through stories and instruction and example. And all of this shared knowledge, these common understandings, they serve a purpose. Culture coordinates behavior. When people share expectations, values, customs, they can interact smoothly without constant negotiation. Culture provides a common framework, a shared set of rules and meanings. It allows strangers to cooperate, to trade, to work together on complex tasks. It creates a sense of identity and belonging. You are part of multiple cultures, overlapping communities with their own norms and practices. Family culture, local culture, national culture, professional culture. Each provides structure, guidance, a sense of how things are done. Culture is not just art and music and food, though it includes those things. It's the invisible scaffolding that makes social life possible. And all of these relationships, all of these connections and networks and cultural systems, they matter enormously. Social bonds shape outcomes. People with strong social connections tend to be healthier, both physically and mentally. They live longer on average. They're more resilient in the face of stress. They report greater life satisfaction. The quality of your relationships is one of the strongest predictors of your well-being. Not wealth, not fame, not individual achievement, but connection. The people in your life, the bonds you share, the community you're part of. These shape your experience of being alive in profound ways. You are not just an individual making your way through the world. You are a node in a network, a thread in a tapestry, connected to countless others in ways both visible and hidden. As you lie here in the quiet, perhaps you can sense those connections, stretching out from you like invisible threads. The people who care about you. The people you care about. The communities you're part of. The vast human family of which you're one member. You're never truly alone, even in solitude. You carry others with you, in your thoughts, in your memories, in the person you've become through countless interactions. And perhaps there's comfort in that, in knowing you're held in this web of relationship, that you matter to others, that others matter to you. You don't have to carry everything by yourself. You're part of something larger, something that has sustained humans for hundreds of thousands of years. The same forces that kept your ancestors alive, the bonds of care and cooperation, they're still here, still working, still holding you. Rest in that knowledge. Let yourself be supported, even now, by the invisible network of human connection that surrounds and sustains you. You belong. You're part of this great human community, and that membership is secure, unchanging, fundamental to who you are. Breathe slowly. Feel the peace that comes from knowing you're not alone, have never been alone, will never be alone. The connections endure, even in silence, even in darkness, even in sleep. Rest now. Let yourself be held by the knowledge of relationship, of belonging, of connection. The next chapter awaits, but for now, simply rest in the warmth of knowing you are part of something greater than yourself.
Sleep well.
Chapter 7. Culture and Meaning. We've explored how humans connect with each other, those bonds of relationship that sustain us. Now let's consider something broader, something that emerges from those connections and shapes entire societies. Culture, and within culture, the deep human need for meaning. Let's explore these gently, discovering how they colour every aspect of human life. Let's begin with something so fundamental you might not even notice it anymore. Culture provides language and values, the words you think in, the concepts you use to understand the world. These come from your culture. Language isn't just a tool for communication. It shapes thought itself, providing categories and distinctions that structure how you perceive reality. Different languages carve up the world in different ways, emphasizing different aspects of experience. And beyond language, culture provides values, those deep beliefs about what matters, what's good, what's worth pursuing. Is individual achievement valued, or group harmony? Is directness prized, or subtlety? Is time seen as scarce and precious, or abundant and flowing? These values aren't universal truths, they're cultural creations, passed down through generations, absorbed so deeply, they feel like simple facts about the world. And culture doesn't just provide abstract values, it offers guidance, templates for living. Stories guide behaviour. Every culture tells stories, myths and legends, parables and fables, histories both factual and embellished. These stories do more than entertain. They teach. They show what happens when you're brave or cowardly, honest or deceptive, kind or cruel. They provide models, heroes to emulate, villains to avoid becoming. Children learn how to be adults partly through stories. Adults understand their own experiences partly through the stories their culture tells. When you face a challenge, you might unconsciously reference stories you've heard, asking yourself what the hero would do, how this situation might unfold. Stories are not separate from life. They're woven into it, shaping behaviour in subtle but powerful ways. Now let's consider how humans have transformed the world around them. Technology reshapes environments. From the first stone tools to modern computers, Humans have created technologies that change how we live and how we interact with our surroundings. Fire gave humans control over warmth and cooking. Agriculture transformed landscapes from wild ecosystems to managed fields. Buildings created shelter and changed the land. Roads connected distant places. Every technology, from the simple to the complex, alters the environment in some way, and these changes accumulate. The world you live in today has been profoundly shaped by thousands of years of human technological development. Natural and human-made environments blend together, often so seamlessly you might not notice where one ends and the other begins. And these alterations run deeper than just buildings and roads. Human activity alters ecosystems. The spread of agriculture changed what plants and animals lived where. The domestication of animals created new relationships between species. Hunting drove some species to extinction and allowed others to flourish. Climate change, deforestation, pollution, the introduction of species to new environments, all of these ripple through ecosystems in complex ways. Humans are not separate from nature, observers standing outside. We're part of it, deeply embedded, with enormous power to change it. This power carries responsibility, the need to consider consequences, to think about the world we're creating for future generations. Every action has effects, spreading outward like ripples in a pond, touching systems and species in ways we might not immediately see. But humans don't just alter the physical world. We create beauty. Art appears in all societies. There has never been a human culture without art of some kind. Music, visual art, dance, poetry, decoration, storytelling. The forms vary endlessly, but the impulse is universal. Humans make art. We always have. Ancient caves hold paintings tens of thousands of years old. Every culture creates music, makes objects beautiful beyond mere function, decorates and adorns. Art isn't a luxury or an afterthought. It's fundamental to human nature. It's how we express what can't be said in ordinary language, how we create meaning and beauty, how we connect with others across time and space. The art you respond to, that moves you, that speaks to something deep within, it's part of this ancient human tradition of making meaning through creation. And cultures mark the important moments, the transitions that punctuate a life. Rituals mark life transitions. Birth, coming of age, marriage, death, and many moments in between. These transitions are recognized, celebrated, mourned through ritual. Rituals provide structure for experiences that might otherwise be overwhelming. They create shared meaning, bringing communities together to witness and support individuals as they move from one stage of life to another. A wedding is not just a legal contract. It's a ritual that transforms identity, that publicly marks a new beginning. A funeral is not just a disposal of remains. It's a ritual that allows grief, that honors a life, that helps the living continue. Rituals connect individuals to their communities and to the long chain of generations who have performed similar rituals before. They make the personal universal, the individual part of a larger pattern. Now let's consider something complex about the self, about who you are. People hold multiple identities. You're not just one thing. You might be a parent and a professional, a friend and a sibling, a member of a nation and a member of a local community, a person with particular interests, beliefs, talents, roles. These identities coexist, sometimes harmoniously, sometimes in tension. Different situations call forth different aspects of who you are. At work, you might present one version of yourself. With family, another. With old friends, yet another. This isn't deception or fragmentation. It's the natural multiplicity of human identity. You contain multitudes, and which aspects come forward depends on context, on need, on choice. Understanding your various identities, how they fit together, what they mean to you, This is part of the ongoing work of being human, and these identities matter because they shape how you move through the world. Identity guides choices. When you identify as a certain kind of person, you tend to make choices consistent with that identity. If you see yourself as someone who cares about health, you're more likely to exercise and eat well. If you identify with a particular community, you're more likely to support that community's values and goals. Identity isn't just a label. It's a lens through which you see the world and your place in it. It influences what seems important, what seems possible, what seems right. Understanding your identities gives you insight into your own behavior, helps you understand why you do what you do, why some choices feel natural while others feel wrong. And beneath all of this, beneath culture and identity and ritual and art, there's something fundamental about human consciousness. Humans seek meaning. We don't just want to survive. We want our lives to mean something, to matter, to connect to something larger than our individual existence. This search for meaning takes countless forms. For some, it's religious or spiritual. For others, it's found in relationships, in family, in love. Some find meaning in work, in creating, in contributing. Some find it in the pursuit of knowledge or beauty or justice. The specific source of meaning varies enormously, but the need itself appears to be universal. Humans ask why. We want our lives to have purpose, direction, significance. A life that feels meaningless is painful in a way that's hard to articulate. Meaning provides orientation, motivation, a reason to continue even when things are difficult. And this isn't just abstract philosophy. Meaning supports health. People who report having a sense of meaning or purpose in their lives tend to be healthier, both mentally and physically. They're more resilient in the face of stress. They're less likely to experience depression. They often live longer. Purpose gives you a reason to take care of yourself, to maintain healthy habits, to keep going through challenges. It's protective, supporting well-being in tangible ways. This doesn't mean you need to have grand ambitions or world-changing goals. Meaning can be found in small things, in daily acts of care, in simple pleasures, in connection with others. What matters is the subjective sense that your life means something, that it has value, that it matters. As you rest here in the stillness, perhaps you can sense the layers of meaning that surround you, the culture you're part of, with its stories and values, the identities you hold, multiple and shifting, the search for purpose that has guided you through your life. All of these invisible structures, supporting you, shaping you, giving context and significance to your existence. You are not just a biological organism, though you are that. You're also a cultural being, a meaning-making creature, someone who exists in webs of story and symbol and significance. Your life is embedded in these larger patterns, these shared human endeavors to create beauty and meaning in a vast and sometimes bewildering universe. And perhaps there's peace in recognizing this, in seeing yourself as part of these ancient patterns. Humans have always sought meaning, always created culture, always told stories, and made art and marked transitions. You're part of that continuity, that long human journey through time, carrying forward traditions even as you make them new. Rest now in that knowledge. Let yourself be held by culture, by meaning, by the sense that your life is part of something larger. You belong to this great human project of creating meaning in the world, and that belonging is deep and true and unchanging. Breathe slowly. Feel the weight of your own significance, the quiet certainty that your life matters, that you are part of the ongoing human story. Let that knowledge settle over you like a warm blanket, comforting and secure. Sleep well. The next chapter awaits. But for now, rest in meaning, in culture, in the knowledge that you are part of something beautiful and enduring. Chapter 8. Health and Time. We've explored meaning and culture, those invisible structures that shape human life. Now let's turn to something more concrete, more immediate: health, and the way health has changed across human history. Let's explore these gently, discovering how time shapes both our bodies and our collective well-being. Let's begin with something happening in you right now, something as natural as breathing. Human bodies follow daily rhythms. You are not the same throughout the day and night. Your body temperature rises and falls. Hormone levels shift. Alertness waxes and wanes. These are not random fluctuations. They're orchestrated by an internal clock, a biological timekeeper that synchronizes with the cycle of day and night. This circadian rhythm influences almost every system in your body. When you eat, when you sleep, when you're most alert, when your immune system is most active, all of these follow daily patterns. Your body expects regularity, anticipates the cycle of light and dark, activity and rest. When you align your life with these natural rhythms, everything works more smoothly. When you fight against them, staying awake when your body expects sleep, eating when your body expects fasting, you create a kind of internal discord that affects health in subtle but real ways. And the most important rhythm, the anchor of all the others, is the cycle of sleep and waking. Sleep restores systems. When you sleep, you're not just resting. Your body is actively working, repairing, consolidating, restoring. Your brain processes the day's experiences, strengthening important memories and clearing away unnecessary information. Your immune system ramps up its activity, fighting infections and clearing damaged cells. Growth hormones are released, repairing tissues. Waste products that accumulated during waking hours are cleared from the brain. Sleep is not passive downtime. It's essential maintenance, the period when your body performs crucial housekeeping tasks that can't happen while you're awake and active. Without adequate sleep, these restorative processes are incomplete, and the effects accumulate over time, affecting mood, cognition, physical health, everything. And how much sleep is enough? Most adults need 7 to 9 hours. This is not arbitrary. It's what research consistently shows about human sleep needs. Some people need closer to 7 hours, others closer to 9, but most fall somewhere in that range, less than 7 hours regularly, and health consequences begin to appear. More than 9 might indicate underlying health issues or simply individual variation. But that 7 to 9 hour range, that's what most human bodies require to complete all the restorative processes of sleep. In our modern world, with artificial light and constant stimulation, many people get less sleep than they need, operating in a state of chronic sleep deprivation without fully realizing it. But the body knows. It keeps track. Sleep debt accumulates, affecting you in ways both obvious and subtle. Now let's step back in time to understand how human health has changed across the centuries. Injury once dominated early death. For most of human history, trauma was a leading cause of death. Accidents, violence, dangerous work, childbirth complications, animal attacks. The human body is relatively fragile, and the world was full of hazards. Without modern medicine, even relatively minor injuries could become fatal through infection or blood loss. Living to old age was less common not because bodies aged faster, but because so many people died young from injuries and infections. The dangers were everywhere, constant, unavoidable. But something remarkable happened, particularly in the last century or two. Public health transformed survival, not just medical treatment for individuals, but population-wide interventions that changed the baseline of health. Sanitation systems, food safety regulations, workplace safety standards, disease surveillance, health education. These public health measures, often invisible in daily life, created the foundation for longer, healthier lives. They prevented illness before it happened, reducing exposure to hazards, creating safer environments. The dramatic increases in life expectancy over the past century are due less to miracle cures and more to these unglamorous but effective public health interventions that protect entire populations. One intervention stands out for its impact. Clean water saved millions. Access to clean drinking water and proper sewage systems. This simple change prevented countless deaths from waterborne diseases. Cholera, typhoid, dysentery. These diseases that once killed vast numbers, particularly children, they were largely eliminated in places with clean water infrastructure. It's hard to overstate the impact. Clean water is perhaps the single most important public health intervention in human history. The ability to drink without fear of disease, to wash without contamination, this transformed human health in ways that are difficult to appreciate if you've never lived without it. Every time you turn on a tap and drink, you're benefiting from systems that save lives every day. Another intervention changed the trajectory of childhood itself. Vaccines reshaped childhood survival. Before vaccines, certain diseases were simply expected, unavoidable parts of childhood. Measles, whooping cough, polio, diphtheria. Many children died. Many more were permanently disabled. Parents expected to lose children, anticipated these tragedies as normal. Vaccines changed this. They trained the immune system to recognize threats before encountering them, preventing diseases that had killed for thousands of years. The impact on childhood mortality was staggering. Within a few generations, diseases that had been common became rare. Children who would have died instead survived to adulthood. It's one of the great achievements of human cooperation, of science applied for collective benefit. And the cumulative effect of all these changes is remarkable. Life expectancy increased globally. 200 years ago, life expectancy at birth was around 30 years in most places. Today, the global average is over 70 years, and in many countries, it's over 80. Think about that. In just a few generations, humans have roughly doubled the average lifespan. This isn't because human bodies have changed biologically. It's because we've made the world safer, reduced infant and child mortality, controlled infectious diseases, improved nutrition, created systems that support health. More people survive childhood, survive childbearing, survive what would once have been fatal illnesses or injuries. This is an astonishing transformation, perhaps the greatest achievement of modern civilization. But longer life brought new challenges. Disease patterns shifted over time. When most people died young from injury or infection, chronic diseases were relatively rare simply because people didn't live long enough to develop them. As life expectancy increased, the spectrum of disease changed. Infectious diseases became less common as causes of death, at least in wealthy countries with good public health systems. But other conditions became more prevalent. Heart disease, cancer, diabetes, dementia. These are diseases that primarily affect older people, that develop over decades. As more people live into their 70s and 80s and beyond, these become the dominant health challenges. And so today, in many parts of the world, the health landscape looks very different from the past. Chronic illness dominates later life. Instead of dying relatively quickly from acute infections or injuries, many people now live for years or decades with ongoing health conditions that require management but not necessarily immediate treatment. Diabetes that needs daily monitoring. Heart disease controlled with medications. Arthritis that limits mobility but not fatally. Cancer that's treated and monitored. These chronic conditions shape the experience of aging for many people. They're not the dramatic, acute crises of the past, but long-term situations that become part of life, requiring ongoing attention and adaptation. As you rest here, preparing for sleep, your body is ready to do what it's designed to do, to follow its ancient rhythms, moving from waking into sleep, to begin those crucial restorative processes that maintain your health. You're part of a long story of human health, benefiting from centuries of accumulated knowledge, from systems and interventions that protect you in ways you rarely think about. Clean water flows from your tap. Vaccines protect you from diseases that once killed millions. Public health systems work quietly in the background, maintaining safety. And your body, following its timeless rhythms, prepares to restore itself through sleep, continuing the cycle that has sustained human life since the beginning. There's something peaceful in understanding this, in seeing yourself as part of both timeless biological rhythms and recent historical transformations. Your body is ancient, following patterns established millions of years ago. But you live in a world transformed by human ingenuity, safer and healthier than at any previous point in history. Rest now in that knowledge. Let your body do what it needs to do. Trust the ancient rhythms, the wisdom of sleep, the restorative processes that begin as consciousness fades. You're exactly where you should be, doing exactly what your body needs, following patterns as old as humanity itself. Breathe slowly. Feel yourself sinking deeper into rest. Your body knows what to do. You don't have to direct it or control it. Just let it carry you gently into sleep, into restoration, into the healing darkness that renews. Sleep well. Let the rhythms carry you. The next chapter will be waiting. But for now, simply rest. Chapter 9. A Crowded World. We've explored health across time, how human well-being has transformed through the centuries. Now let's look at the world we've created, this crowded, complex, interconnected global society. Let's explore it gently, discovering both its challenges and its remarkable achievements. Let's begin with something difficult but important to understand. Inequality shortens lives. Where you're born, what resources your family has, what opportunities are available to you, these things profoundly affect how long you'll live and how healthy those years will be. People in wealthier circumstances, on average, live years or even decades longer than people in poverty. This isn't primarily about genetics or individual choices. It's about access. Access to nutritious food, safe housing, clean air and water, quality healthcare, education, safe working conditions. Inequality creates different worlds within the same society, different life expectancies, different health outcomes. It's a sobering reality, a reminder that health is not just personal but deeply social, shaped by systems and structures that distribute resources unequally. And the mechanisms are clear. Poverty increases disease risk. When resources are scarce, health suffers in countless ways. Inadequate nutrition weakens the immune system. Unsafe housing exposes people to toxins and hazards. Lack of healthcare means conditions go undiagnosed and untreated. Chronic stress from financial insecurity affects both mental and physical health. Dangerous working conditions increase injury risk. Limited education can mean less health literacy, less awareness of prevention. Poverty is not just about having less money. It's about living in conditions that undermine health at every turn, that make it harder to stay well, easier to become sick. These are not individual failures, but structural realities, systems that shape health outcomes in powerful ways. Let's step back now and look at the long arc of human history. Humans once lived much shorter lives. We touched on this before, but it bears repeating. For most of human existence, living to old age was rare. Life expectancy at birth in pre-modern societies was typically in the 20s or 30s. This wasn't because humans aged faster biologically. The human lifespan, the maximum age people could reach, that hasn't changed much. But the average was pulled down dramatically by something specific. Child mortality lowered averages. The shocking reality of pre-modern life was that enormous numbers of children died before reaching adulthood. Estimates suggest that in many pre-modern societies, perhaps 30 to 50% of children died before age 5. Infant mortality was especially high. This catastrophic child death rate meant that life expectancy at birth was very low, even though people who survived childhood often lived into their 60s or beyond. The average was not because everyone died young, but because so many died very young. Parents expected to lose children. Communities built rituals around this tragedy because it was so common. The transformation in child survival is perhaps the most important health achievement in human history. And as child survival improved, something remarkable happened. Longevity increased over centuries, not just average life expectancy, but also the number of people reaching advanced ages. Better nutrition, safer environments, control of infectious disease, advances in medical care, all of these factors combined to allow more people to live out their full biological potential. Today, in many countries, it's expected that children will survive to adulthood, that adults will live into their 70s or 80s. What was once rare has become common. What was once hoped for is now anticipated. This transformation happened gradually, unevenly, and it's still ongoing in many parts of the world. But the direction is clear. Humans are living longer, healthier lives than at any point in our history. And as more people survive, as lives lengthen, the human population has grown enormously. The global population exceeds 8 billion. 8 billion individual human lives, each unique, each with their own story, their own hopes and struggles. It's a number almost too large to comprehend. For most of human history, there were far fewer people, a few million, then tens of millions, then hundreds of millions. But in just the past 2 centuries, and especially the past 70 years, the population has exploded. Better health, particularly better child survival, meant more people living to adulthood and having children of their own. The result is a world more densely populated than ever before, more crowded, more interconnected, more complex. But here's something important about this growth. Population growth is slowing. The rate of increase has been declining for decades. In many wealthy countries, birth rates have fallen below replacement level. The global population is still growing, but more slowly than in the past, and demographers expect it to peak sometime this century and then begin to decline. This transition from high birth and death rates to low birth and death rates is happening worldwide at different paces. It reflects changing economics, education, access to family planning, urbanization, shifting cultural norms. The explosive population growth of the 20th century was a unique moment in human history, unlikely to be repeated. And where are all these people living? Here's a remarkable fact about modern life. Most humans live in cities. For the first time in human history, more than half the global population is urban. People have moved from rural areas to cities seeking opportunity, work, education, services. Cities have grown enormously, becoming vast metropolitan areas housing millions. This represents a fundamental shift in how humans live. For thousands of years, most people were farmers or lived in small villages. Now most people live surrounded by other people in dense built environments connected to global networks of trade and communication. The city has become the default human habitat, the normal environment for human life. And this urban life, it changes us in subtle ways. Urban life reshapes behavior. When you live in a city, you interact with strangers constantly. You navigate complex social rules about personal space, eye contact, interaction. You're exposed to diversity, to people different from yourself. You rely on vast systems for basic needs: electricity, water, food distribution, transportation. You experience constant stimulation, noise, movement, information. This shapes psychology, attention, stress levels, social behavior. Urban living is not inherently good or bad, but it is different from the small-scale village life that characterized most of human history. It creates different challenges, different opportunities, different ways of being human. And work itself has transformed. Modern work differs from survival labor. For most of human history, work meant direct survival activities. Growing food, hunting, gathering, building shelter, making tools and clothing. The connection between labor and survival was immediate and obvious. If you didn't work, you didn't eat. Today, for many people, work is abstracted from survival. You might work in an office, manipulating information. You might provide services. You might create things that no one strictly needs for survival. You're paid money, which you exchange for what you need. The connection between your daily labor and your survival is mediated through complex economic systems. This abstraction changes the meaning of work, the experience of labor. It can create alienation, a sense that work is disconnected from anything real or meaningful. But it also allows for specialization, for creativity, for work that's about more than just survival. As you rest here in the quiet, perhaps you can sense yourself as one person among billions, one small point in a vast and crowded world. You live in a time unlike any other, when human population peaks, when most people live in cities, when health and longevity have reached heights our ancestors couldn't imagine. You're part of this great human congregation, this unprecedented gathering of lives. And yet, despite the billions, despite the crowding, despite the complexity, you remain an individual, one person with one life, valuable and unique. The vast numbers don't diminish your significance. If anything, they make the fact of your individual existence more remarkable. Among 8 billion, you are you, distinct, irreplaceable, mattering. There's something both humbling and comforting in this perspective. You're part of something enormous, a global human community facing shared challenges. But you're also singular, your own person, living your own life in your own way. Both things are true at once. You belong to the whole and you stand alone. You're connected to billions, and you're uniquely yourself. Rest now in that paradox. Let yourself be both part of the crowd and distinct from it. You're held in the great web of human life, and you're also free, individual, your own center of consciousness and experience. Breathe slowly. Feel the stillness around you, the quiet that exists even in a crowded world. Let yourself settle into sleep, into rest, knowing that tomorrow you'll rejoin the human throng. But tonight, you can simply be quiet and alone, at peace. Sleep well. The world continues its turning. The crowds continue their movement. But for now, you can rest, separate, and serene. Chapter 10. The future you shape. We've journeyed through the crowded present, this unprecedented moment in human history. Now let's turn our gaze forward, toward the future. Not with anxiety, but with gentle curiosity. Let's explore how the present shapes what's to come, and how each of us, in small ways, participates in creating that future. Let's begin with something hopeful, a genuine achievement worth acknowledging. Extreme poverty declined globally. Over the past few decades, hundreds of millions of people have been lifted out of extreme poverty. The proportion of humanity living in desperate circumstances has fallen dramatically. This is not an accident or a natural occurrence. It's the result of economic development, public policy, international cooperation, technological advancement, and countless individual efforts. People have more access to education, healthcare, clean water, electricity than ever before. This doesn't mean poverty is solved or that the world is perfect, but the trajectory is real and significant. Human cooperation, when directed towards shared goals, can transform lives on a massive scale. It's evidence that progress is possible, that the future can be better than the past. And yet, we must hold both truths at once. Many still lack basic needs. Despite progress, billions of people still struggle with inadequate food, unsafe water, lack of healthcare, insufficient shelter. Children still die from preventable diseases. Families still lack access to education. Communities still live without electricity or clean sanitation. The work is not finished. The progress achieved shows what's possible, but also highlights what remains to be done. Every person matters. Every life has equal value. The fact that things are better than they were doesn't mean they're good enough. There's still enormous need, still vast suffering that could be alleviated with resources and will. The future we create depends on whether we extend the circle of care, whether we work toward a world where everyone has what they need to live with dignity. One of the most powerful tools for creating that future is knowledge. Education expanded worldwide. More children attend school today than at any point in history. Literacy rates have climbed. Access to information has exploded with the internet. Education, once the privilege of elites, has become increasingly accessible, though still unevenly distributed. This matters enormously because education transforms everything. It opens opportunities, enables participation in modern economies, improves health outcomes, reduces poverty. Education allows people to make informed decisions, to advocate for themselves, to contribute their talents. An educated population is the foundation of progress, the engine of innovation and improvement. The expansion of education globally is one of humanity's great investments in the future, and the timing of that education matters profoundly. Early learning shapes lifespan outcomes. What happens in the first few years of life? The experiences children have, the stimulation they receive, the security they feel, all of this creates foundations that last a lifetime. Early childhood is when brains are most plastic, most rapidly forming connections, establishing patterns that influence everything that follows. Children who experience rich learning environments, who are read to, talked with, played with, who feel safe and cared for, they develop capabilities that serve them throughout life. Early education and care are not luxuries. They're investments that yield returns for decades. The future is shaped in playgrounds and nurseries, in homes and preschools, in those crucial early years when human potential either flourishes or struggles. Now let's consider how technology is reshaping human capabilities. Digital tools extend cognition. Your smartphone is not just a communication device, it's an extension of your mind, giving you access to vast stores of information, allowing you to calculate, navigate, remember, communicate in ways that would have seemed miraculous a generation ago. The internet connects you to human knowledge accumulated over millennia. Software can handle complex tasks, freeing your mind for other work. These tools genuinely extend what humans can do, amplifying our capabilities in remarkable ways. We're cyborgs already, in a sense, biological minds enhanced by technological tools. This augmentation will only deepen as technology advances, raising questions about what it means to be human when so much of our cognition is distributed across biological and technological systems. But this connectivity comes with costs. Constant connectivity increases stress. The same devices that extend your capabilities also make constant demands. Notifications, messages, updates, news, always something requiring attention. The boundary between work and rest blurs. Social comparison becomes constant. Information overload is real. The human mind evolved for a very different environment, one with clear separations, defined periods of rest, limited social contacts. Modern life asks your nervous system to be perpetually alert, always available, endlessly processing. This creates stress, anxiety, difficulty focusing, trouble sleeping. The tools are powerful, but they come with psychological costs that we're still learning to manage. Finding balance, maintaining boundaries, protecting rest and attention, these become crucial skills for navigating modern life. And the impact of human activity extends far beyond our own experiences. Human activity alters climate. The carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases released through burning fossil fuels are changing Earth's climate system. Temperatures are rising. Weather patterns are shifting. Ice is melting. Sea levels are rising. These changes will reshape the world for generations to come, affecting where people can live, how food is grown, what ecosystems survive. Climate change is not a distant threat. It's happening now, accelerating, creating challenges that will define much of the 21st century. How humanity responds to this crisis, whether we can cooperate to reduce emissions and adapt to changes already underway, this will shape the future profoundly. It's perhaps the defining challenge of our time. And climate is not the only system we're changing. Humans drive evolution in other species. Through hunting, habitat destruction, pollution, introduction of invasive species, selective breeding, genetic modification, humans are actively shaping which organisms survive and how they evolve. Some species are going extinct, others are adapting to human-modified environments. Domesticated species have been transformed by human selection. Bacteria are evolving resistance to antibiotics. Urban animals are evolving different behaviors than rural ones. Humans have become one of the most powerful evolutionary forces on the planet, intentionally and unintentionally directing the future of countless species. This power carries responsibility. We're shaping not just the human future, but the future of life itself. All of these challenges, from poverty to climate to technology, they point to one crucial concept. Sustainability shapes future survival. The question is not just whether we can survive in the short term, but whether the systems we create can endure, can continue to support human and other life across generations. Sustainable practices, whether in energy, agriculture, industry, consumption, these are what will determine whether the future is abundant or impoverished, flourishing or struggling. Sustainability is not about sacrifice or returning to the past. It's about designing systems that work with natural processes rather than against them, that can continue indefinitely because they regenerate rather than deplete. The choices made now about how to produce food and energy, how to manage resources, how to organize economies, these will echo through centuries. And this brings us to our final thought, the culmination of everything we've explored. Human life shapes the future of life. You are not just living your individual life. Though you are doing that, you're also participating in something larger. Your choices, your actions, your values, they ripple outward. They influence others. They contribute to systems. They shape the world in small but real ways. What you buy influences what gets produced. How you treat others influences culture. Whether you learn and grow influences what you contribute. Whether you care for the environment influences what remains for the future. You matter. Your life is not insignificant. You're part of the great human project of creating the future, and every person's contribution matters. This is not meant to create pressure or anxiety. You don't have to save the world single-handedly, but you can recognize that you're part of the world, connected to it, influential within it. Small actions accumulate. Small kindnesses ripple outward. Small sustainable choices, multiplied across millions of people, transform systems. You shape the future simply by living thoughtfully, by caring, by trying to leave things a little better than you found them. As you prepare for sleep, perhaps you can release the weight of the world's problems. They're real, but they're not yours alone to carry. You've done what you can today. You've lived your life, made your choices, contributed in your own way. That's enough. That's all anyone can do. Tomorrow will bring new opportunities to participate, to contribute, to shape the future in small ways. But tonight, you can rest. The future will unfold whether you worry about it or not. The great systems will continue their slow transformations. Humanity will continue its journey through time, facing challenges, finding solutions, adapting, surviving. You're part of that story, but you're not responsible for writing every chapter. You can let go. You can rest. The future is being shaped by billions of people, by vast forces, by processes far beyond any individual's control. Your part is important, but it's just one part. And for now, your part is to rest. Breathe deeply. Feel the release that comes from setting down the burden of tomorrow. Tonight is for sleep, for restoration, for the simple animal peace of rest. The future can wait. The problems can wait. For these next hours, you can simply be without responsibility, without effort, held in the gentle darkness of sleep. Let yourself drift now. Let go of everything you've learned tonight, all these facts about life, about humans, about the world. Let them settle into your mind like sediment drifting down through still water, coming to rest in the depths where they can be integrated, understood, held without effort. You've completed this journey through 100 facts about life. You've traveled from the first cell to the distant future, from the individual body to the global community, from the deep past to the unknown tomorrow. And now you can rest, carrying all of this knowledge lightly, knowing it will be there when you wake, but not needing to hold on to it consciously right now. Sleep well. Dream peacefully. Let the future take care of itself while you rest in the eternal present of sleep, where time stops, where worry ceases, where there is only the gentle darkness and the quiet rhythm of breath. Rest now. You've earned it. Sleep deeply. Tomorrow awaits, but it can wait. For now, just sleep.